Do you remember what Ash said about the Xenomorph in the movie Alien? When he said, "Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility. I admire its purity, a survivor, unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. The Xenomorph's genetic makeup allows it to adapt to any environment, having acid for blood, a hard exoskeleton for armor, and the loyalty they have to their queen makes them the perfect organism." Ever since the Weyland-Yutani Corporation heard about this alien species, they've been fascinated about it. When an alien was on board the Nostromo, their top priority was to bring back the alien life form, and the crew was expendable. It's not the first time Weyland-Yutani has taken such an interest in the Xenomorph. Now, there are stories where they try to weaponize them for military purposes, and other stories where the Xenomorph is completely robbed of its natural instincts and turned into an automated weapon. This brings us to the character General Thomas Spears. He was part of the story in Alien's Nightmare Asylum. There was a novel and also a comic book about this story. While not everything about him is mentioned in the comic book, some other details are given out in the novel. Nightmare Asylum was part of the Alien's novel trilogy. The story of Nightmare Asylum takes place after Alien's Earth Hive. The Xenomorphs have infested Earth and have spread across the world, forcing humans to escape or die trying. The year was 2129, and Thomas Spears was born within an artificial womb, part of the military's birthing program. He was raised within the military and was trained to serve the corps. During his early childhood, he would get bullied by an older cadet named Jericho, but around the age of 9, Thomas Spears would defend himself against him, and he took Jericho's life by using a knife. He did not think twice or show any signs of remorse. He was simply proud of his kill. When he reached the age of 15, Spears was showing to be a competent cadet and could possibly become a Marine in the future. While he was still in the military, he found himself attracted to Gunnery Sergeant Brandywine, who was twice his age, but they still shared an intimate encounter, and because of this moment, he would always remember her. When he reached the rank of general, he now had the power to reach his ambition, to create an army of trained xenomorphs. They would be controlled by his command. He would bring them to Earth to fight against their brethren and reclaim Earth for mankind. Not only was his idea ludicrous, but there was no guarantee trained aliens would fight against the ones on Earth. As the story of Nightmare Asylum begins, it picks up where Alien's Earth Hive left off. The survivors of the previous story are Wilkes, Billy, and the android Bueller. Having made it out of Earth, they drift through space in the American space vessel. It automatically has coordinates set for a military installation which is run by General Spears. Billy ends up having a nightmare of an alien and fears there's one on board the ship. This actually ends up being true. Billy and Wilkes deal with the aliens by using their limited weapon supply and using the airlock and also the thrusters of the ship to shoot them off into space. When they board the military station, they are greeted by General Spears, but he greets them very rudely. Spears is a type of man who puts a lot of focus on his mission. Survivors are not his priority. Instead, he shows great concern in the alien species that were lost. General Spears would keep his agenda a secret, performing experiments on aliens to harness and control their behavior. He truly believed this species could be controlled, like all the other grunts under his command. He admired them, not for their violent nature, but for their loyalty and devotion to their queen. Compared to the xenomorphs, humans are frail and weak, but xenomorphs have the strength and power of true soldiers. They are loyal and serve without question. They just lack leadership, and Spears has the dream of leading aliens into battle under his command. While most of the men under his command would follow his orders, some of them thought the general was insane, and any traitor who was caught would end up with a severe punishment. They would just disappear. The general would even go as far as taking the civilian terraforming base and turning it into a breeding station. At first, the colonists would fight back, but then they all eventually became test subjects for the xenomorphs. Part of the general's birth process is hinted in one scene. He mentions how he was not born naturally. He feels he's missing something, and it's what the aliens share above all else, the bond of flesh. It's also mentioned how he lied to the colonists. He said a viral bacteria had formed from the terraforming process. This was a way to place the colonists into separate quarantine cells. It was later revealed that the Queen would communicate to her drones through an empathetic mental link. The testing began almost immediately, and every available colonist was used for science. When a xenomorph killed a human, they would burn it, and the Queen would watch her children incinerate in front of her. General Spears would use this method as a way of communicating with the Queen, and it worked. The Queen seemed to understand. When he showed her the flame on his lighter, the Queen would order her drones not to attack. After each test session, selective drones were removed from the physical proximity of the Queen, but the aliens escaped later on, only to be pushed into the ship's holding pen by the use of a flamethrower. Spears believes they understand the flame. It was a way to reason with the Queen before, so maybe it still works. The aliens ended up escaping because of the actions of Billy, Wilkes, Bueller, and Powell, who was working for Spears, but has now joined the others who want to stop the General. By this time, the insanity of General Spears really starts to show when he chooses his mission over the lives of his own men, burning them as he leaves the base with the aliens and its Queen on board, only saying a crew would only complicate matters, so he chose to continue his mission alone. When he approaches Earth, he's so lost in his own dream, believing the aliens will follow his orders. He thinks he can only trust the xenomorphs because their loyalty transcends human treachery. When he lands on Earth, he releases the aliens on board his ship, but something unexpected happens. They do not follow his orders. Then they try to attack him, but he defends himself. In the end, his insane mission was a failure. All he did was aid the Queen to rejoin her children on Earth. General Spears tries to fight her off, but she ends his life with a head bite. His revolution ended before it had a chance to begin. Right before he lost his life, General Spears would use his flamethrower on the Queen alien, and she burns away in front of her children. This story ends with Ripley making an appearance, which leads into the next book, but it's later revealed this is not the real Ripley, it's just an android version of her. While the comic book and novel have mostly the same story, there are a few differences between them. For example, Spears has a different death scene by the Queen alien. When he tries to train the Queen, instead of incinerating a warrior alien to control her, he tries to destroy her eggs instead. When the Queen and the other xenomorphs escape, one version has them accidentally released by someone loyal to General Spears, and the other version has Spears releasing them himself. While he may not be the only character who wanted to control the xenomorphs, General Spears was not following orders from someone above him. His mission was a delusional dream of being the so-called savior of Earth. The man suffered from paranoia and ran his army with an iron fist, having no sympathy for his actions, sacrificing humans in the name of science, and even risking the lives of his own men. The only thing that mattered to him was reaching his goal. There are a bunch of characters within the Alien and Predator universe that are very interesting, and I've covered them in separate videos, either through the comic books, movies, novels, or video games. I will leave a few links so you can check them out. Now, when it comes to the lore on these two franchises, there's a lot of differences and scale between them to how far some stories can go. While the comic books are very ambitious, not everything you can read there can be fully accepted by the fans. There's a lot of things I covered within the Alien and Predator universe, so look around my channel and enjoy. So that covers the story of Thomas Spears, a look into his past and his rise to the rank of general, and also the downfall of his dream to control the aliens. If you want to see more content like this in the Alien universe, then subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. You can also leave a thumbs up rating if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. My name is Acid Glow, and I'll see you in the next video.